I'll never forget that night, not because of what I lost, but because of what I found. See, sometimes life sets up a moment that splits you wide open, and you just have to decide who you are, even if no one's watching. That's how it started for me. On a bone-cold rainy night with my shoes falling apart, and my whole world held together by a single, frayed thread. They say one small act of kindness can change everything. Maybe, but nobody tells you it might cost you everything first. Willow, that's me, had just finished a late shift at the gas station, soaking wet, wind cutting straight through my hoodie, the kind of weather that makes your skin sting and your hope even thinner. The job was seasonal, almost gone anyway, and Denise, my boss, handed me a paper bag with a leftover biscuit, greasy and still warm. Eat something, storm's close, don't drag your feet. That's all she said. But her eyes told me she knew my story. Even if I didn't tell I TMY sneakers, with soles split from too many miles, soaked up the water as I walked. I still had 6 blocks to go, past the blinking liquor store and the boarded-up pet shop, heading to Rudy's Diner, my second job, where time wasn't just money. It was survival. My backpack felt heavy, not from books, but from the kind of tired that crawls into your bones when you're always behind and never get to catch your breath. That's when I saw him. An old man at the bus stop, hunched, rain dripping from his hair, one shoe twisted like he'd stepped wrong and never fixed it. No one else was around. He wasn't asking for help. He just looked finished. You ever see someone like that? Where you know, in your gut, they're hanging by a thread thinner than yours. I knew if I stopped, I'd be late. Craig, my boss at Rudy's, was clear. One more late clock in, don't bother coming back. Rent was due in 6 days. My mom was down to 2 doses of medicine. My brother Mal needed me. But that old man's hand missed his shoe, shoulders slumped. Not dramatic, just defeated. For a moment, I stood there, torn in half by things nobody else could see. Then I crossed the street anyway, pulled my hoodie tight, and knelt down beside him. The rain was like needles now, my socks were already soggy, but none of that mattered. "Sir, are you okay?" My voice barely reached him. He didn't answer, just stared off, lost. I slipped my hoodie off and wrapped it around his shoulders, cold biting into me, but he gripped it like it was a lifeline. My phone was almost dead, but I called 911, voice shaking. "There's an old man here, confused, soaked. I don't think he knows where he is." The dispatcher told me to stay until help came. I sat with him, rain running down my back, watching the diner's neon sign flicker across the street. I was already late, but I couldn't leave. The cops came 9 minutes later, felt like an hour. They spoke soft, helped him up. "You did good," one said. Not many would have stopped, but I didn't feel good. My heart was thudding with dread, because I already knew what was waiting for me at Rudy's. When I finally walked in, dripping and cold, Craig didn't even look up. "You're 14 minutes late," he barked. "Don't even. Out. And don't ask about last week's check. It's gone." Just like that, the last thread snapped. I didn't beg. I just stepped out into the rain, not sure what would hit harder, the wind, or knowing my whole safety net had disappeared in one night. Walking home, the city felt different, like the storm had washed away even the small comfort of routine. By the time I got to the apartment, my arms ached, shoes making that squishy sound with every step. Inside, the light was yellow and dim. Mom was bundled in a thin blanket, feverish, eyes half open. "Did you take your medicine?" I whispered. She shook her head. "Only 2 pills left, and the last water bottle was nearly empty." Mal stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, asking soft, "You don't work there anymore?" I didn't answer. He just shuffled away. Sometimes it's not words, but the silence that nearly undoes you. That I tried to distract myself, folding clothes, smoothing each shirt into a pile, preparing for job hunting that felt impossible. My phone was dead. Even the charger quit. I hunched over the desk, exhaustion creeping in. Meanwhile, somewhere across town, a video was making its way around TikTok, then Facebook, then everywhere. A clip of a girl, soaked, kneeling to wrap her coat around a shivering old man. The caption, "If you know who she is, please tell us." The man's daughter, Natalie Langston, had posted it, desperate to find the stranger who helped her father. People called me an angel in the storm, said I was the light the city needed. I had no idea. Denise, my old boss, recognized my coat by the patch I'd sewn myself. She called me at home. "Willow, could you come by? Someone wants to meet you." I walked back to the station, mind spinning. Maybe someone was returning a lost wallet. Maybe it was nothing. Instead, there stood Natalie Langston, well-dressed but tired, holding an envelope. "This is from my father," she said, hands shaking as she passed it to me. I opened the letter and read, his words gentle and real. "Your kindness was real. When I woke up in the hospital, I couldn't stop thinking about the person who helped me. The Langston Foundation offers scholarships to students who show promise and compassion. Enclosed is a full scholarship. My daughter would also like to offer you a job as our community project coordinator." I nearly dropped the letter. For once, I wasn't seen as a charity case or someone struggling. I was seen for what I did and for who I could become. They took care of everything: tuition, housing, even a small stipend. I started college, sat in the back row of that first economics class, staring at the whiteboard like it was a map to a future I never believed was mine. I didn't forget where I came from. The memory of that rainy night stayed with me, not haunting, but anchoring me, reminding me what it means to be kind when nobody's looking. I worked at the community center, told my story in schools and nursing homes, not to make myself a hero, but so others knew. "I see you. I was there too." The first time I stood in front of a crowd and spoke, I said, "Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel brave. It just feels lonely." But maybe that's where it all starts. Not when the world cheers, but when you stay kind, even when it costs you. For a long second, there was silence. Then applause, not polite, but real. Some folks cried, some just sat, letting the words settle where they needed. Life didn't suddenly become perfect, but I learned that sometimes the right thing makes no sense today, but makes you whole tomorrow. So I keep going, step by step, knowing I'm not alone, not anymore. And I wonder, if you were in my shoes that night, would you have crossed the street? Or would you have kept walking? Let's talk about it below. What's the right thing and what does it cost? Share your story, hit like and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on notifications if you want to start your day with lessons that linger longer than any storm. It's funny, you know, how life never warns you when the next test is coming. You think you've had your share of storms, sleeping cold, jobs lost, stepping out on faith into the dark, and then life slides a whole new challenge across the table. That's what happened my sophomore year, when I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. If you think being handed a scholarship means you're set for life, let me just say, the world doesn't hand out happy endings without asking for something back. College wasn't just a different world, it was a whole new language. The first few weeks, I showed up early to every class, pen ready, acting like I belonged. But inside, I felt like a kid sneaking into a party she wasn't invited to. My advisor, Mrs. Patel, said, "You're here on merit, not charity." I wanted to believe her, but I'd see kids drop hundreds on books and lattes without blinking, and it was hard not to measure the gap between us. Still, I kept my head down, working part-time at the community center, running after-school programs, listening more than talking, because sometimes what people need isn't advice, but to be heard. One afternoon, as summer faded into a tired, golden fall, Natalie Langston called me into her office. She had that smile that could either mean good news or big trouble. "There's something I want you to see." She turned her laptop around. On the screen was a video, grainy, cell phone footage of a food pantry, a long line of families wrapped in hoodies, waiting. "We're losing funding," she said, voice tight. "We're serving more people than ever, and the city's about to cut us off." She paused, then asked, "Do you think you could help organize a community drive?" Now look, I'd barely kept my own family afloat. The thought of rallying donations, lining up volunteers, talking to strangers who didn't want to listen, it made my stomach twist. But I remembered the night someone found me worth searching for. I said yes, even though fear sat heavy in my chest. That's where things started to unravel. in ways I never expected. The first week, I knocked on doors across neighborhoods that didn't trust each other, let alone some do-gooder college kid. Half the time, folks closed the door before I finished talking. Some said, "That's not our problem." Others looked past me like I was invisible. I'd go home, flop on my bed, and for a minute, all the old doubt came flooding back. "You're out of your depth, Willow. You don't belong here." Some nights, I thought about quitting. You know what I mean? That little voice that says, "Let someone else be brave." Then one evening, as I was leaving the center, I found a note taped to the door, crumpled, written in looping handwriting. "Thank you for feeding my kids last week. Don't let them close this place. We need you." No name, no signature, but something in those words put steel in my spine. I started showing up even earlier. I called every contact Natalie gave me, even the ones I was sure would hang up. I learned to let the no-s roll off, to celebrate each tiny yes. Sometimes, the biggest twist isn't when a villain shows up, but when help comes from a place you never expected. That help came in the form of Mr. Riley, a retired fire chief with a temper like thunder and a heart to match. He'd seen me dragging boxes in alone and barked, "You're stacking those all wrong. Gonna hurt your back." He showed up every day after that, rallying his old friends, even getting the local high school football team to run canned goods drives. Soon, the center was buzzing, elders cooking hot meals, teenagers laughing as they sorted food, people I'd never met calling to ask, "How can I help?" But as the drive gained momentum, the city council scheduled a vote to shut us down, citing safety concerns and budget priorities. That night, I sat with Natalie and Mr. Riley in her dim office, feeling the weight of every family counting on us. "They think we'll just roll over," Riley said, pounding his fist on the desk. Natalie looked at me. "If you want to speak at the meeting, you don't have to, but you'd be the one they'd listen to." Let me back up a sec. Public speaking terrifies me. I mean, I'd rather walk barefoot through that freezing rain again than talk in front of 100 strangers. But when the day came, I stood in that stuffy council chamber, my knees knocking, sweat running down my spine. The mayor, some sharp-dressed man with a rehearsed smile, said, "Next speaker, Willow Carter." I stepped up, hands trembling, and I told them everything. I talked about losing my job for kindness, about families sleeping hungry while the city looked away, about how a little community center kept hope alive for kids who thought no one saw them. I could feel the room shifting, people sitting a little straighter, some blinking back tears. Then, halfway through, a woman stood up in the back, thin, pale, voice quivering. "My son's alive because of this place. He was going to drop out, join a gang. Willow helped him. She didn't just give us food, she gave us our family back." She wasn't supposed to speak, but nobody stopped her. Suddenly, other voices chimed in. Elders, parents, even the principal from the high school. The vote didn't go as planned for the city. In a twist nobody saw coming, the council backed down, funding was restored, and the center became a model for others across the city that you'd think that would be the end of it. But real life doesn't tie up with a neat little bow. The next morning, the local news called me a community hero, and for a day, people recognized me in the street. But that night, walking home under the pale city lights, I realized what really mattered wasn't headlines or scholarships or even applause. It was that moment in the rain, and every moment since, choosing to see people, choosing to show up, even when it cost me, even when nobody was watching. And I guess that's what I want to leave you with. Sometimes the world will ask you to give more than you think you have, and the only thing left to hold on to is the reason you started. Doing the right thing doesn't end with one act. It's 1,000 choices every day to be present, to lift someone up, to say "I see you," and mean it. So, if you've ever felt like you didn't belong, or like your voice wouldn't matter, let me be the first to say, it does. It really, really does. Now I want to hear from you. When was the last time you stood up when it would have been easier to walk away? Do you think community is built on big gestures or a million small ones? Drop your story in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more stories that remind us all why we matter. And hey, don't wait for a storm to do the right thing. Sometimes, you are the light someone's looking for.